This is the first lecture for Chapter 16, Acids and Bases, and continuing our conversation with equilibrium. So a couple definitions for you is the first one, and there's a few different ways we can look at acids and bases. The first one is the Arrhenius definition, in which we describe an acid as something that donates a hydrogen ion to a water solution. And a base is something that donates a hydroxide ion to a water solution. It's a very specific definition, and it's one we really don't use, but just hang on to it, put it aside. It's just one of the definitions that's out there. The one we typically use is the Bronsted-Lowry definition, in which I like to call follow the hydrogen. So an acid is something that donates a proton or a hydrogen ion, same thing. It's something that donates a hydrogen ion to a solution, and a base is something that accepts it. Easy enough. And that's the definition we pretty much go by, and if I'm correct, the College Board just sticks to that. Okay? So just expanding on the same idea. So Bronsted-Lowry acid has to have an acid to give, or a hydrogen to give, and a base is something that must be able to, and it does that by having a non-bonding pair of electrons out there. That's going to tie into Lewis acids and bases at the end of the lecture. So something that is amphoteric is anything that can act as either an acid or a base. And the classic example of that is water. If it loses a hydrogen, in other words, it's acting as an acid, then the result is going to be this, which is a base. If it gains a hydrogen and is acting as a base, the end result is going to be this, which is hydronium, and that's an acid. So amphoteric means it can go either direction. It can become an acid or it can become a base, and it can act as an acid or act as a base. Okay, moving forward. So what happens when an acid goes into solution? Well, it's going to donate that hydrogen ion to something else. And then the result is that it itself is going to become a conjugate base. So I think on the next slide it might be easier for us to have this conversation. Let's take a look. It is. Okay, so let's just focus on these words here instead of all the other stuff. So you have an acid and a base. Once an acid does its thing and donates a hydrogen, the result is that acid is going to become we'll call it a resulting base or a conjugate base. So how do you identify this? Well, you just look at the NO2 and find the NO2 over here. Notice it is minus the hydrogen ion. So the acid became a resulting base, a conjugate base. And a base does the exact opposite. So it is something that is accepting the hydrogen. So here we have H2O with two H's, and it gained an H over here. So it acted as a base. It acted as a base, and its result now is that it is an acid because it accepted the hydrogen. Now it's an acid, and it could go the other direction. A little bit confusing, but after you see it a few times, it kicks in. So how do you decide which direction the reaction is going to go? Based on the fact that in this last slide here, it's like, well, hold on a minute, here's my acid, and here's my acid, so it could go either direction. Well, in determining which direction the reaction is going to go, we have to determine which acid is stronger. So just as a comparison, I'll say, okay, we've got some phosphoric acid, and we've got some, let's go hydrochloric acid. Well, we already know hydrochloric is a really strong acid, so it's going to push away from hydrochloric. So hydrochloric is going to do its thing, and it's going to form, it just happens to be phosphoric acid on the other side. Phosphoric acid is not strong enough as an acid to push back in the other direction and force chloride to accept a hydrogen as a base. We'll see examples of this in class. And just here's that list again. And similar strong acids, and this is just a small list, it's certainly not complete, of some strong acids and then some other ones along the way in regards to their strength. Alright, what are we getting at here? That's just something we can just discuss in class. No need to do it here. Basically, this is just kind of going over what we discussed in the previous slide. that the reaction is just going to push based on the strength of the acid. So in this case here, you have this as being an acid, which is hydronium, and over here you have acetic acid, which is also acting as an acid. So based on the Ka value, which is the strength of the acid, it's going to decide which way it pushes. So for example, let's just go back to that list. Here we have hydronium and we have acetic acid. I'm not even sure they're on the list, but we'll take a look. Here's acetic acid, and if we have hydronium, we should have that on here somewhere. There it is. So hydronium is a stronger acid, so going back to our slide, we are going to push in this direction, as hydronium is the stronger acid, which is why, as we already know, the acetic acid is a pretty weak base, or excuse me, a pretty weak acid. It doesn't dissociate very well because hydronium is stronger, so it pushes in the other direction. It doesn't happen. Autoionization of water. There's a big fancy word that you should try to incorporate as much as you can into your daily conversation. It simply means that water dissociates all on its own. So here you have a little water, and here you have some more water. One's going to act as an acid, one's going to act as a base in regards to handing hydrogens back and forth. It does it to itself. So when we're looking at the values, when you have an initial water, so again, if we have two waters that are breaking apart and it's forming some H3O positive and some OH minus. Remember, for pure substances, we don't include those in the equilibrium expression, so here they are. These guys actually both break up evenly, because if they get one, then the other one has to equal it out. It's the same thing, concentration-wise. And its product, its Kc, or Kw product, excuse me, is this value right here. So that is the water ionization constant right there. So for the fact that this is the product of the two, then half of that has to equal a value, I guess we'll see here in a second. All right, let's just do the pH thing and get that out of the way. pH is an easier way as opposed to discussing values like this. So we can do that, and they're both legitimate. It just happens to be a larger value, or more difficult, I shouldn't say larger, it's very small. It's very difficult to talk about, so typically we take the negative log and it gives us a more palatable value. So for example, that value we just had in the previous page, 1 times 10 to the negative 14, come on, turns out to be 14 if I take the negative log of it. So the pH value is just a more palatable value to discuss. So here we had that previous one we were talking about. Notice again, because if you have one, you have the other, so these values here are equal. And if we take the square root of that, you end up with this value. And if we take the negative log of it, we end up with a value of 7. So that is why you get the pH value of water of 7, is because the ionization constant product of water, the Kw, is 1 times 10 to the negative 14. And then you can have the discussion whether or not a solution is acidic or basic, and you're pretty familiar with that, so I won't spend any time on that. This is just a comparison of some various substances and their acidity. Notice one thing we can mention here, if we haven't done it already, is the relationship between pH and pOH. Those values add up to 14, so it's just another way we can make some comparisons. And the product of these pairs adds up to 1 times 10 to the negative 14. So we can see how those kind of compare as well. And those relationships are also listed down here. Right. This is probably a pretty good place to take a break, and we'll pick up the next lecture shortly.